Hi, this is a video on IELTS Speaking Part 3. In the last part of the speaking test, the examiner is going to challenge you. And that might sound scary, but if you know what you need to do and how, then it's possible to do really well in this part of the test. So if you're curious and you would like to know how you can improve your performance, then I suggest you stick around for the video. If you are planning on taking the IELTS test, or you just want to know more about it, then go on, subscribe to Home Studies.
So we've gone over the interview and the long turn. Now it's time to turn our attention to IELTS Speaking Part 3, or the discussion.
So what is IELTS Speaking Part 3 all about? Well, the discussion, like the rest of the test, takes place with the examiner, not with a speaking partner, and it lasts for between 4 and 5 minutes. During this time, the examiner will ask you a wide range of questions based on the topic that you had in Speaking Part 2. Your job is to expand your answers with explanations and examples and reasons that are both personal and connected to the world in general. The complexity of the questions that you will be asked in this final part of the speaking test depends on you. You see, if the examiner thinks that you are a Band 5 or Band 6 candidate, then they will ask you simpler questions. You'll have a more straightforward conversation rather than a discussion. However, if the examiner thinks you are a Band 7 candidate or higher, then they will definitely challenge you. So they'll ask you more discursive questions to see how well you can defend your opinions and agree or disagree with theirs. But either way, this part of the test is your last chance to impress the examiner and improve your band score. So what are my 3 tips for doing a good job in this part of the speaking test? Well, number 1 is to please give your opinions. This is what the examiners want to hear. They want to hear what you think about the questions that they ask you, about the topics that are raised in the exam. Now, even if you don't have strong opinions about something, it doesn't matter. Just say anything. Make it up. It doesn't have to be true. They're not going to fact check your answers. All they want to see is that you can fluently and confidently talk about a topic in English. Number 2 is that you expand on your answers as much as possible. So please don't just say yes, no, maybe, or give a one-word answer. It's not enough. You need to justify your opinions. You need to give reasons and examples to support the things that you say. So the more you expand, the better. And point 3 is to agree or disagree with the examiner. You don't always have to just say that you agree with what they're saying. In fact, disagreement is good because if you disagree, it can lead to discussion. And that is the whole point of this part of the test.
The ability to give your opinion in English is a critical real-life language skill. So it's not a big surprise then that the examiners want to see how well you can give your opinions in the exam. Now, rule number 1 for test day is this: do not say I think or in my opinion. I know that these are common expressions and that native speakers use them all the time, but they're too basic, they're too overused to impress the examiner in your speaking test. Instead of saying this, why don't you use more advanced expressions like to my mind, as I see it, for me, I'd say that, in my view, or if you ask me. Using these expressions, you're more likely to showcase the best of your speaking skills and get the band score that you want. So grab a pen and a piece of paper and make a note of these 6 great expressions for giving your opinion in English. You'll see why in a moment. Let's practice. Here are 6 IELTS questions from the discussion. Read the questions and respond to them, giving your opinions. And for each of the answers, try to use a different one of the expressions you've just written down for giving your opinion. Pause the video, practice your speaking, and then press play when you're ready to go on.
The thing about speaking is that it is so difficult to self-assess. Like, you know exactly what you should be saying. You know the theory, but it's just a case of how to get it out. Like, are you saying things right, or is there any way that you could say things better? And really, in terms of developing speaking skills, there's no substitute for a real teacher, someone who can give you real feedback on your speaking performance. So if this is the kind of thing that you're looking for, then please get in touch with Home Studies. We can offer you a free trial, and we can get you enrolled in our custom-made one-to-one IELTS preparation courses, all with an experienced exam trainer like me. So if you're interested, just click the link below. Good, let's get back to the video.
In part 1, I warned you against saying too much because the examiner has a lot of questions to ask you and there's limited time available. In IELTS Speaking Part 3, however, you do have a bit more time and you should try and elaborate, so that is to give full answers. In terms of elaboration, you need to state your own opinions, so say what you think about something. Then you can also give reasons for your opinions, as well as examples to justify those opinions. It's also a good idea to predict what you think could happen next or in the future, and to show another side to the issue, so to give a balanced point of view, to show the pros and the cons. Let's do a task to make sure we're on the same page. Pause the video and then match the language functions we've just discussed to an example of each below. Then press play when you're ready to check your answers. Did you manage to identify them all correctly? If so, great job. Let's now get into the nitty-gritty of IELTS Speaking Part 3. Here we've got 2 sets of IELTS discussion questions. Your job is to expand on your answers using the 5 techniques we've discussed. Now remember, you don't need to use all of the techniques for every question. This would be overkill. So for example, for one answer, you could give your opinion, then give reasons for your opinion, and predict what could happen in the future. Then for the next one, you might give your opinion and then provide a relevant example. After that, you could show a different side to the issue. So you can pick and choose the techniques and mix them up, but the idea is that you expand and you develop your speaking as much as possible. So pause the video, answer the 6 questions, and then press play when you're ready to continue. So, how did you get on? Did you feel comfortable in expanding and developing your answers? Well, let's take a look at a high-scoring response to the following question. How important is it to learn about other people's cultures?
To my mind, learning about different cultures really helps you understand why people do things the way they do. For instance, while I was living in Peru, I definitely became more open and tolerant and empathetic towards others. That said, it's important not to try and take ideas from other people's cultures and make them your own. Like, you can respect them, but not appropriate or try to steal them.
Let's analyze or break down this high-scoring Band 9 response that uses 3 of the techniques we've discussed. First, we've got the opinion. To my mind, learning about different cultures helps you understand why people do things the way they do. So, to my mind, is a great way of introducing your opinion in a higher level way. Next, we develop the answer with an example. For instance, while I was living in Peru, I definitely became more open, tolerant, and empathetic to others. For instance is a very good way of introducing an example. It's much better than saying, for example. We'd want to avoid that in speaking. And finally, we add the opposite side of the argument, so something that is in contrast to what's been said before. That said, we shouldn't take ideas or customs from other people's cultures and try to make them our own. Like you can respect them, but not appropriate them. That said is another great expression to use when you want to introduce a counterpoint. It means despite what has been said before. And when you put it all together, you get a rich, developed answer that I promise you is going to impress the examiner. Now, here at Home Studies, we know that practice makes perfect. That's why we've created a practice pack for you to help you improve your performance in IELTS Speaking Part 3. It contains questions for 6 common topics that come up in this part of the test. So to download your free copy, just click the link below. Hope it helps. In the test, the examiner can ask you their opinion on the topic and then ask you if you agree or disagree with them. Now, it's not actually their opinion, it's just part of the exam script. So don't be nervous to disagree. You're not going to offend them. It's just all part of the process. In fact, in the exam, disagreement is good because it leads to further discussion and it better showcases your language skills. So if you get the chance to disagree with what your speaking partner has said, then I suggest you go for it. Now again, using classic expressions like I agree or I disagree is not going to win you any prizes on exam day. I know native speakers use these a lot, but this is your opportunity to go one better, to impress the examiner. So pause the video and try and see how many of these expressions for agreeing or disagreeing you can come up with. There are expressions to show agreement, a neutral opinion, and disagreement. Work through them and press play when you're ready to check your ideas. Let's check your answers. So to express agreement, you can use expressions like, I couldn't agree with you more. I totally agree with you on that. Or I think that's absolutely right. To show you're on the fence, so you neither strongly agree nor disagree, you could say, I agree to a certain extent, yes, or I agree with you up to a point. And to express disagreement, you could say something like, I take your point, but that's not always the case, or I beg to differ. Just a quick disclaimer, for some of these answers there are multiple possibilities. For example, you could say I totally agree with you, I completely, or I absolutely agree. So if you're not sure if your ideas are correct, then check in a dictionary, or even better, talk to your home studies teacher about it. If you've watched the other videos in the IELTS speaking series, you'll know that I'm a big fan of recording yourself speaking on a mobile device. So if you want to make the most of your practice pack questions, why don't you do that? Record your answers, and then when you listen back, you can ask yourself how well you did and how well you expanded on those answers using the 5 techniques from the video. And now it's over to you. So here are some IELTS discussion questions in which the examiner expresses an opinion on the topic. You need to say whether you agree or disagree with them, giving reasons and examples to support your ideas. The questions are, some people argue that video games promote violence in society. Do you agree? Some people say that nothing can be done to stop global warming. Do you agree? And some people believe that life was better 50 years ago. To what extent do you agree? pause the video and answer these questions. And if you have any doubts about how well you're able to answer them, then why don't you put your answers in the comment section below? We'd love to hear from you and give you some feedback on how well you structure your responses. Good luck.
Well, that's gonna do it. If you enjoyed the video, then go on, give us a like, and do stay tuned for more video tutorials in our IELTS preparation series. Thanks for watching and cheerio!